welcome to the ICA and to our Freeze VIP event. I'm Mark Sladen, I'm the Director of Exhibitions here, and I'm very proud to be introducing a conversation between Rosalind Nashashibi and Dieter Roelstraete. Dieter is a curator, writer, teacher, extensive list of accomplishments and involvements. He works as a curator at the Antwerp Museum of Contemporary Art, MUCA. His other exhibition projects include co-curating the Belgian Pavilion at the Venice Biennale in 2005. He has written extensively on contemporary art and related philosophical issues. His publications include monographic publications on the works of Luc Tuymans, Mark Manders, Roy Arden, amongst others. He's also an editor of After All, a contributing editor for A Prior, and also F.R. David. And he is a tutor on courses in Rotterdam and Amsterdam, in the latter city at on the DIAPL curatorial training program. Dieter will be in conversation with Rosalind Nashashibi, who of course is the subject of our current exhibition. Rosalind is based in London, and the ICA was in fact an early promoter of her work, but since then she's gone on to establish a wide international reputation. Recent projects include Venice Biennale in 2007, Manifesto last year in Trento. However, this current exhibition is really the most extensive exhibition of Rosalind's work to date, and certainly myself working on it, I felt I gained a much greater understanding of Rosalind's work, being able to assemble a group like this and work on the show with Rosalind, and I'm sure, well, I hope other visitors will have the same experience. It contains work since 2005, includes obviously a group of 16mm films made since that time, including a rather wonderful new piece, Jack Straw's Castle, which was actually a co-commission with Bergen Konsthal, who are co-organisers of the exhibition, and the exhibition will travel there in November. If you haven't seen the exhibition, the galleries tonight will be open until 9 o'clock. If you have seen the exhibition, please join us for a party afterwards. And that's just in the bar, just outside here. Tonight we're also launching the catalogue which accompanies the exhibition, and contributors actually include Dieter. That catalogue is available, as you might have seen, from a stall outside here, also in the ICA bookshop. And also do take a look at the beautiful limited edition print that Rosalind has done for us. So please join me in welcoming our two guests. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark, for the introduction. Thanks for the invitation. Obviously, this goes out to the ICA as in its entire apparatus-like status. Rosalind, we just had a brief meeting before we came here, and to prepare tonight's conversation, and we are both assuming that everyone has seen the exhibition. So, yes, that's the general assumption. And as Mark pointed out, I've written in the catalogue. I'm not going to repeat the general arguments of that essay. I'm not going to read from it, maybe refer to it briefly. The essay, I would say, is slightly more theoretical than what I think today's conversation should be like, which I hope will be convivial and colloquial and conversational, first and foremost. So it'll be down to me to ask questions and for Rosalind to answer with more than just yes, no, maybe, or I don't know. And so we decided to start out chronologically with discussing the most recent work in the show and working back towards the oldest work in the show, which is a piece from 2005. And this most recent work, partly commissioned by the ICA, is Jack Straw's Castle, which I had heard about. I had heard the story about the piece a couple of months before here, seeing it finally. Had no idea of the title back at that time. I'm not sure how or when the title kind of came to into its own. But then when I came to see the show just yesterday, not being a resident of London and not being British by nationality, I assumed that the Jack Straw in Jack Straw's Castle was the political figure of a recent vintage. So I'm not sure, I don't think he'll be here, but so the first question really kind of concerns that choice of a title, which I mistakenly read as a very astute political commentary. But then again, it wasn't, it seemed.
Well, it's a bit more practical because Jack Straw's Castle is the way that particular area is called, because there used to be a pub there called Jack Straw's Castle. And it's my theme tune.
It's your phone?
It's my theme tune. No, it's not my
phone. Right, okay. Just a brief reminder for everyone else. Quick!
So there used to be a pub there, and it became the name of the bus stop, and it was sort of identified the area, and it's now become like a beauty centre or health centre or something. But that particular part of Hampstead Heath is referred to by that name, but it was actually, the pub was called Jack Straw, I subsequently found out, because he was the leader of a peasant revolt from the 1300 peasant revolt in England.
The original Jack Straw.
Yes, and he used to stand there on his hay wagon and give his sort of revolutionary speeches, and his hay wagon was called his castle. But I'm using it to refer to that area, which those who know will know kind of what tends to go on there after a certain hour.
And that would be?
Just
for those who haven't seen the film, which is all the way...
It's a part of the heath that's kind of a little bit away from the main part, and it sort of tends to be all men, you know, beyond kind of 5 p.m. cruising.
Right, okay. So the piece Jack Straw's Castle, which is a 17-minute film, is basically consists of the interweaving of two different scenes or two different scenarios. One being your pretty straightforward, or so it seems, registration of cruising activity in the park. And then secondly, a much more elaborate story which involves the staging of a shooting. And is that, the shooting that is staged in the park, is it the shooting of the actual cruising activity, or those things were distinct?
So, yeah, it's distinct. So it's a shooting as in a film shoot, just in case anyone hasn't seen. It's the same place, but when I was shooting during the day, when I was shooting the cruises, it was just myself and one other person. And this is actually much more to do with lighting the forest, the second half, and all this kind of fairly large crew, mainly men, kind of doing this very elaborate beauty lighting on the trees and, you know, consulting about how it should look. And
right, okay. Because that's the soundtrack we hear is basically all these men who man a film crew asking, how do you like this? How do you like that? So, you know, there's most of the questions there seem to drive towards an aesthetic concern.
I mean, I think it's, sort of in retrospect, because I tend to make the films in a sort of less questioning way. You know, I knew that I was interested in shooting these men walking around.
Right.
And then in the same part of the forest, or seemingly so, a sort of a film crew lighting the trees, or lighting for some scenario. I didn't sort of articulate to myself while I was doing it what the relation might be, but I think that it's actually, on the one hand, to do with the sort of performative nature of both activities, but also to do with the two different kinds of desire that are played out. On the one hand, this guy is kind of going around looking for sex, or some sort of incarnation of it in the woods, which is pretty basic and pretty kind of raw element of desire. On the other hand, a much more aesthetic kind of striving for very particular kind of beauty that would please a certain audience through artificial means, so a very highly aestheticized